The Assassin Brotherhood is known for its ideals of freedom, justice, and peace, a centuries-old network dedicated to protecting humanity from control and oppression. But what happens when these ideals get lost along the way? When the Brotherhood's very principles are compromised by the people who should be upholding them? That's the tragic tale of the Colonial Brotherhood, a branch of assassins that found itself steeped in tragedy, some pretty questionable decisions, and arguably the most self-inflicted downfall we've ever seen in the franchise. The Colonial Brotherhood in the Assassin's Creed series is infamous for its failures. Unlike the iconic brotherhoods led by iconic figures like Ezio Auditore and Altair ibn Ahad, who refined the Brotherhood's values and embodied the Assassin's tenets, the Colonial Brotherhood seemed to drift away from its own creed. In this video, I want to focus on how this once promising faction became, in many ways, the quote-unquote worst brotherhood, a tragic example of what happens when arrogance, lack of foresight, and disregard for the tenets of the creed lead to disastrous consequences. Okay, so let's rewind a bit and talk about the Colonial Brotherhood. The Assassins work in the shadows to guard the ideas of free will and independence. So the Assassins are total freedom fanatics, and the Templars, well, they are total control freaks. Over hundreds of years, the Brotherhood spread worldwide, forming branches in different cultures and times. But one branch sticks out for all the wrong reasons, and that branch is the Colonial Brotherhood in America. When European settlers began pouring into America, the Assassins saw a chance to bring their fight to the New World, stopping the Templars from taking over the colonies. And so the Colonial Brotherhood was born. Led by Achilles Davenport, a man who is basically supposed to be the wise mentor figure, the Colonial Brotherhood tried to make a real difference. Achilles had all the knowledge, he had all the experience. You know, he was supposed to be the guy to guide the branch to the chaos. But spoiler alert, it did not go exactly as planned. It turns out 18th century America was not the easiest place to be an assassin. Between all the social issues, the political mess, and the constant chaos, things got ugly pretty fast. With barely any support from other branches, the Colonial Brotherhood was left to fend for themselves. And let's just say they did not always make the best choices. They made alliances with questionable groups, got caught up in fights with the Templars, and over time, their actions became more extreme and morally shaky. Their focus on taking down the Templars at any cost led them to lose sight of the Brotherhood's core principles, causing them to make choices that went against everything they once stood for. By the time the Revolutionary War rolled around, the branch was already a hot mess. Their decisions became so questionable that it was like they were playing How Low Can We Go, and boy did they go low. And then came the ultimate plot twist, which was Shay Cormac. You see, Shay was one of their own, a loyal assassin who watched all this craziness unfold. And eventually, Shay hit his breaking point. He did not ditch the Brotherhood out of rage or revenge. Nope, he walked away because he was disappointed. And honestly, who wouldn't be? This was an assassin who believed in the assassin cause, and he watched it get twisted beyond recognition. And that right there is how the Colonial Brotherhood became the don't be like them lesson in assassin history. Let's talk about the Assassin's Golden Rules, or tenets as they call them. Think of these as the Assassin's ultimate moral code. Tenets that make sure they're not just running around stabbing anybody who looks at them wrong. The Assassins have three big ones, and they're supposed to live and die by these rules. These are what sets them apart from the Templars and makes them the good guys of Assassin's Creed. But of course, our lovely Colonial Brotherhood decided these rules were more like guidelines. So here's how they messed up rule by rule. Tenet 1. Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent. It sounds pretty simple, right? Don't kill innocent people. The assassins are here to protect innocents, not slaughter them. It makes sense. This tenet keeps assassins from being tyrants themselves, and keeps their conflicts strictly with the Templars. But did the Colonial Brotherhood stick to it? Hell no. Take Shay Cormac, the unlucky assassin who got caught up in this mess. He's sent on a mission to Lisbon to retrieve an ancient ezio artifact, and the task seems pretty straightforward. Well, that is until the whole city collapses into rubble. This artifact ends up causing a massive earthquake, killing tens of thousands of innocent people. Shay is horrified, like anyone with a conscience would be. He confronts his mentor Achilles expecting, I don't know, maybe an apology, a little regret, anything? But nope. Achilles just brushes it off, saying something like, oh well, better us than the Templars, right? You see, the man does not care that their little artifact hunt just wiped out a city. That right there was Shay's breaking point. He'd been loyal to the Brotherhood, but he could not stand by and watch them risk innocent lives just to stay one step ahead of the Templars. And it gets much worse. Even after Shay leaves and warns them, the Colonial Assassins keep hunting these artifacts, fully knowing the risks. They'd sacrifice civilians if it meant sticking to the Templars. This is not just breaking the first tenet of the creed, it's trampling on it, all in the name of their greater good. Tenet 2, hide in plain sight. Now the second tenet is all about keeping things low key, hide in plain sight. Basically, assassins are supposed to blend in, move in the shadows, and not make a scene. They're a secretive force, not a showy gang that slaps its logo on everything in sight. But our Colonial Brotherhood, well, they took this rule, tore it up, and threw it into the harbour. In New York, they were out here flying the assassin insignia like it was a goddamn billboard. They plastered their symbol all over buildings and hideouts. Not just tiny subtle marks, but massive screaming "We're here" signs. It was like they wanted everybody, especially the Templars, to know exactly where to find them. Not exactly hiding in plain sight, right? And it gets better. They teamed up with the local gangs in the city. Yeah, nothing screams secret disciplined order like being best friends with the local thugs. You see, the public wasn't seeing a noble group of heroes working from the shadows. They saw a chaotic, violent gang. By the time Conor Kenway steps up in Assassin's Creed 3 to clean this mess, the Colonial Brotherhood is a shadow of what it should have been. He's left picking up the pieces, trying to bring back a little honor to an organization that looked more like New York's next big mafia. So hide in plain sight? Well, the Colonial Brotherhood said, we don't do that over here. Tenet 3. Never compromise the Brotherhood. Now this is the third and final tenet. Never compromise the Brotherhood. This one's important. It's about not screwing up things for everybody else. Assassins are supposed to be smart, to keep their secrets, and make sure their enemies do not know what they're up to. In other words, protect the Brotherhood at all costs. But shocker, the Colonial Brotherhood managed to screw this one up too. They'd already fucked up the first two tenets, putting themselves and their allies at risk. But the way they ignored the warnings from within their own ranks was pretty bad. Shay Cormac tried to warn them. He was not out to betray the Brotherhood. He was out trying to save it and stop the self-destruction of it, seeing exactly how their reckless artifact hunting was tearing everything apart. But did they listen? Nope. Achilles and his fellow assassins just brushed Shay off, thinking they knew better. This left Shay with a bit of choice. Either sit back and watch the Brotherhood self-destruct or go to the Templars, the very people he had been fighting. And the irony of it all is, in trying to protect the Brotherhood's interests, Achilles Davenport and his assassins ended up compromising it more than they could have imagined. Shay's defection was a huge blow, and their gang connections and disregard for innocent lives were just more fuel for Templar's fire. By the end, the Colonial Brotherhood had pretty much handed the Templars a golden ticket to tear them apart. The Colonial Brotherhood was a mess from the start. Their mission in the New World was already complicated, trying to push for freedom while keeping the Templars in check. But they managed to make it 10 times worse with every boneheaded decision that they made. Of course, the big turning point was the Lisbon earthquake, as I mentioned. This wasn't a small disaster, it was a massive wake-up call. Shay Cormac, our unlucky assassin, retrieves this ancient artifact, and bam, he triggers a massive earthquake that wipes out thousands of innocent people. It's the kind of thing that sticks with you, you know? Shay was shattered, realizing that maybe the Brotherhood's noble mission was a little too reckless and a lot too dangerous. But the real problem was when Shay bore his concerns to his mentor Achilles Davenport, hoping for some kind of reflection or remorse. Achilles basically shrugged. It was like, hey, sacrifices have to be made, no big deal, right? For Shay, that was the last straw. He could not watch the Brotherhood play God with innocent lives. So he defected to the Templars, thinking if they're not going to stop this madness, maybe I will. This wasn't just Shay switching sides. His defection exposed the Colonial Brotherhood's failures on a whole new level. He knew their hideouts, their strategies, all of it, and he handed them on a platter straight to the Templars, who then went on a Brotherhood dismantling spree. And if that wasn't enough, the Colonial Brotherhood's gang alliances were just another nail in the coffin. Instead of being seen as protectors, they looked like just another bunch of violent thugs. The public saw them as dangerous and reckless, not the noble shadow warriors they were supposed to be. In the end, the Colonial Brotherhood's downfall was one giant domino effect, with every poor decision leading them closer to their own ruin. The whole Colonial Brotherhood disaster did not just hit the organization, it wrecked some of its important figures, especially Achilles Davenport and his protege Conor Kenway. These individuals went through the ringer because of the terrible choices, and it shows. Achilles was once this respected mentor, a man with big dreams to establish a powerful assassin base in America to counter the Templars. He genuinely believed in the Brotherhood's ideals of freedom and justice, and he wanted to make a difference. But the deeper he got, the more those ideals got twisted. His obsession with collecting powerful artifacts, thinking he was saving the world, ended up backfiring big time. Of course, the Lisbon earthquake was a huge slap in his face. It shook him, and not just literally, because it exposed how dangerous his missions had become. And Shay's betrayal? Well, that was a dagger to the heart. A brutal reminder that maybe Achilles had lost his way. Oh, and he also got shot by, you know, Haytham Kenway in the right shin, which shattered his ability to remain an active assassin and marked the end of his career in the field. So by the end, Achilles Davenport was a broken, injured man, burdened with regrets and the wreckage of the Brotherhood he had tried so hard to build. And then there is Kane Kenway. By the time he steps into the light, the Colonial Brotherhood is in shambles, and Achilles is a shell of his former self. But Kane Kenway is dedicated. He's got a burning desire to protect his fellow native people and push back against the Templars, especially with his father, Haytham Kenway, being a top Templar himself. Kane was constantly fighting to restore honor to the Brotherhood, but that legacy of failure hung over him like a dark cloud. His relationship with Haytham forced him to confront the brutal reality that neither the Assassins nor the Templars were perfect. Through it all, Kane kept pushing, hoping to fix what was broken and make something better out of the Brotherhood's mess. But the past was always there, haunting him and turning his fight into a constant uphill battle. After the days of Kane and Achilles, the Colonial Brotherhood's journey took some wild turns as it clawed to stay relevant throughout chaotic times. The name kind of changed slightly from colonial to American, and they were still committed to one goal, keeping the Templars from taking control. But you see, every tiny win seemed to come with a crushing loss. In the 1800s, the Brotherhood was barely holding it together. They tried to protect the oppressed during events like the California Gold Rush, even stepping in to free enslaved Maidu people from John Sutter's mines. But without real resources or leadership, they were basically just winging it. The Civil War split assassins between the Union and the Confederacy, leaving them fractured. By 1863, one assassin named Varius was fighting the Templars in New York, scraping by on his own. When Templars assassinated President Lincoln, it was a brutal reminder of just how vulnerable they had become. The 20th century brought shifting alliances, and even more betrayals. The assassins partnered with inventor Nikola Tesla, who helped a Russian assassin Nikolai Orlov in a wild mission at Tunguska. But this alliance soured when Orlov later abandoned the Brotherhood, kicking off conflicts within their own ranks. During the Palmer raids in 1919, the Brotherhood went underground, trying to fight from within the Bureau of Investigation. It showed their willingness to adapt, but they were relying more on espionage than actual assassin tactics. World War II hit, and things got desperate enough that the assassins actually teamed up with the Templars. Yes, you heard that right. Assassin Colonel Boris Pasha and Templar John von Neumann tried to stop Adolf Hitler, who had gone rogue even by Templar standards. This temporary truce showed how bad things had gotten, but like everything within the Brotherhood, it came with betrayal and a lot of lives. The Cold War era saw the Brotherhood working with the CIA, led by Boris Pash and William King Harvey. They ran a shady cell called the Bloodstone Unit, using an Apple of Eden to manipulate events worldwide. The Bloodstone Unit took on some questionable missions, creating a rift in the Brotherhood as they started mirroring the Templars' ends justify the means attitude. By the end of the Cold War, the Brotherhood was ethically in the gutter, and their reputation took a serious hit. The late 20th century brought their darkest hour, known as the Great Purge. In the year 2000, sleeper agent Daniel Cross, who was brainwashed by the Templars, assassinated the American mentor and exposed assassin hideouts. Abstergo launched a brutal massacre, nearly wiping out the entire Assassin Brotherhood. The few survivors went into hiding, shattered and scattered. After the Great Purge, the remaining assassins were forced to go underground. Leaders like William Miles started rebuilding, using mud and tech to keep the fight alive. Though just a shadow of what they once were, they played a massive role leading up to Desmond Miles' sacrifice in 2012. So in the end, the Colonial Brotherhood's legacy is one of survival against all odds, marked by so much betrayal, loss and near extinction. It's a dark chapter in assassin history, showing just how high the cost can be when the ideals are sacrificed for victory. But to be fair to them, it also highlights their incredible resilience, refusing to give up even when everything seemed lost and shit was going left. And that brings us to the end of the video. Do you guys also think the Colonial Brotherhood is the worst brotherhood in Assassin's Creed, or do you think there's another brotherhood out there that's even worse? Let me know down in the comments below. These types of videos where I focus just on the lore are videos that are pretty fun to make. If you have any other recommendations on lore videos that you'd like to see, then feel free to comment down below. As always, shout out to the members of my Patreon. And with that said, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.